right, so we're continuing on with notes for 8-2, Math 7, on measures of variation. So up next, we're going to talk about an outlier and what an outlier is. So an outlier is just a data value that is much larger or smaller than the rest of the data. A data value that is much larger or smaller than the rest. So, for example, if we were talking about test scores, that question from your homework last night gave you test scores that were all in the 80s. Those were all very consistent. If you had a test score thrown in there that was like a 10, that would really be considered an outlier since it's much smaller than the rest of those data values. Just like on the flip side, if you had a quiz where everyone did pretty poorly and everyone got like 10s and 20s, but then you had that one kid that got a 100, that 100 would be the outlier. What's important to recognize is that when you're dealing with outliers really affect the mean, aka your average. That's why it can really suck when you're talking about like your school grades. If you do really well on some tests, but then all of a sudden you do really poorly on a test, or you forget to hand a quiz in or something, and your grade plummets. So when there is an outlier, that skews the average or throws it off. And it makes it so that it's no longer accurate or no longer the best measure of center. So it's really important to consider that. That's why a lot of times you'll see teachers, say things like one grade isn't a very good definition of who you are. It's just one picture. There are actual formulas that we use to calculate outliers, and you will need to do this on your practice problems tonight. And so first off, if your data value is greater than, so that's that inequality, if it's greater than Q3, which stands for quartile 3, plus 1.5 parentheses, meaning multiplication, so times the IQR. Remember what the IQR stands for? Interquartile range. Great job. So if you do that math and you have a data value that's bigger than that number, then it's going to be an outlier. And on the flip side, if you do if you take quartile 1 and subtract 1.5 times the interquartile range, if you have a number in your data set that is smaller than that number, then it is considered to be an outlier. We are going to look at example 1 next. I'm going to start off by reorganizing and ordering that list to start with, so maybe you want to do that as well.